When I was young, I was told by my father, "You must not forget who you are." I thought he meant I shouldn't forget that I was Chinese, and I laughed back at his words. I mean, who could I forget? How could I forget who I am? I'm Chinese, I was born in China, and I have a Chinese passport. And then one day, on the way home from kindergarten, I was suddenly stripped from my homeland, away from my grandma's warm arms, and sent to a faraway nation right off on the airplane the next day, where people spoke a language I knew not of. I was 4 years old back then. I spent the next 6 years immersed in a foreign culture that I thought I belonged to. I still am a Kiwi, and somehow over time I convinced myself that New Zealand is my actual homeland. I spoke, I read, I wrote English, and Mandarin to me was just a tool I had to master in speaking in order to communicate at home. And just as I was about to fully embrace the New Zealander culture, I was again sent off on a plane, just like it was 6 years ago, to a foreign country I now grew unfamiliar of. I was 10 years old back then. I was sent back to China under my parents' orders to relearn Chinese, for I was told to be ashamed of myself for forgetting my mother language. I was confused. But I spoke English better than Mandarin, and I can't even recognize those oddly shaped characters. How could that be my mother language? And then somehow my father's words came back to me a long, long time ago when he once said, "You must not forget who you are," and when I laughed back at his words. To be honest, it was suffering to fit in at first. For my whole lifetime, I had learned English from a British background, and yet my parents put me into an international school that utilized 100% American textbooks, and that meant culture shock. Culture shock as in when I raised my hand in class to ask for a piece of rubber, and people would think I literally mean a piece of that black heart thing you find on car tires, or when I offer lollies, and they thought I actually meant LOL, or that traumatizing moment when I heard everyone around me, including the teachers, pronouncing can't as can't instead of I can't. It's sad to mention, but I finally lost that one last British accent of pronouncing I can't just recently, probably about a year ago. For all my lifetime, I've not only shifted cultures once in a while, but also constantly moved around. I have moved into 8 different houses in total, counting the upcoming 9th one in June. Sometimes I really feel like a nomadic person, or maybe even the nomads were better than me. At least they got to sleep in their same tents and ride the same horses, know the same neighborhoods, I never got to remember any of my neighbors' names. So coming to the US was just like another daily lifetime routine for me. It did impact my last 3 years deeply, but when my mom announced it at the dinner table when we were still in China, it was just like a casual grocery shopping invitation when she said, "Oh, we're going to move to the US." And I was like, "Okay, Mom." And how much does this constant moving around impact my social life? The answer is severely deep. I had close friends when I was in New Zealand, but they were the minorities of the whole grade. I still remember on the day when I left for China, I called my friend and asked her, "How are everyone's reaction to my son transferring?" And she replied, "They celebrated it." I didn't cry, but I remained silent throughout the whole plane ride. Luckily, it was better when I came over to the US from China. People probably still celebrated it because I had a personality that stood out a little too much back then. But my best friends insisted on staying in touch, which I am deeply grateful for, even until today. They're in college right now, and I'm still a high school student, but that doesn't make any difference amongst us. I used to avoid talking about this subject because I felt ashamed having to retake my sophomore year, which probably became the worst time of my life. Transferring back and forth among schools isn't fun. I didn't have a stable friendship I could rely on or anyone to talk to. I suffered severe depression, my grades dropped to C's, and I locked myself in my room every day after coming home from school, and I constantly cried. Leaving RHP really wasn't a wise choice, and I'm glad I realized that before it was too late. But now I'm also glad for being able to go through all the pain, because all that had turned to experience that was vital for me to grow up and mature and to become who I am today. And I'm truly thankful for all of my friends and the people who have accepted me when I firstly came back in my junior year. If it was not for the acceptance, I may not even end up here right now, this second giving my speech. So when people ask me where do you come from, I used to have a hard time explaining because I would hesitate between answering Chinese or Kiwi, and if I answered Chinese, they would ask me, "Oh, from what district?" And that would silence me completely because I had no idea how to answer it. The city I lived in the longest, the city I was born in, and the city I registered with permanent residence are three completely different places. So in the end, I just give up and say, oh, I'm just Chinese. But now if someone would ask me to identify myself, I would probably still come up with the same answer and the same difficulties explaining. But what's different that I'll know it's not the country where I grew up in that'll define me, but who I define myself as. Thank you. Shout outs. Ms. Ha. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to learn about the deaf culture. It's by far the most interesting language course I've ever taken, and I'm proud to teach ASL to my friends and family when I go back home or whenever I can. Mr. Holloway, he's not here. I wanted to be honest here. Even From is probably the worst book I've ever read in my whole life, but I really enjoy your lectures. I still have the Welcome to English 3 smiley face folder you gave me on my first day back at RHB. Mr. Williamson, I never got a chance to thank you, but thank you for all of those afternoons where you stayed behind and taught me how to write my essays. Miss Rudolph, she's not here either. I love APA. I'm really glad to take APA this year, although it's often suffocating to remember all of those art pieces information, but I enjoyed each art trip we've gone to, including that Sunday Getty trip when we complimented on that Greek-Roman statue in the exhibit. Miss Taylor, thank you for giving me all those compliments on my writings. It really boosted up a lot of my confidence. Mr. Famini, I'm really happy to be in the same group for Elder Ed this year, but I'll never forgive you for cutting in the shower line. P.S. Nice tattoo. Friends, Riku, I'm so glad we became close this year, and thank you for cheering me up when I was really down last trimester, and also tolerating all my temper attacks, and also urging me into completing my college apps on time. I love you. I'll never forget that stripping in the shower dance. Cassidy, which is not here. S2B, this will probably be our inside joke for the rest of our lifetime, and I'm really thankful for introducing me to that brand new culture. I really hope we could both be accepted into ACCD, so we'll be able to live together in college too. I think you will, because you've always been the 大处处 in my heart, and I'll try best to. Let me sub it in my portfolio first. I love you. Iris, which is probably not here either. Let's see. How should I put out love-hate relationship into words? You're probably the only friend I've gotten so angry with in my entire life, but at the same time, I can be so honest with you and sometimes kind of creepy to think about how much things we could relate. I personally see you as my half-twin sister, although you're Korean, but you shouldn't let anything stop you from embracing your inner Chineseness, you know? Thank you for having those hourly-long personal conversations with me. Please remember to reply to text when we go into college. I still hate you, but I love you too. Austin. I hate you too. Angie, she's not really here. Although we don't talk that much anymore this year, but you're still the only person who knows my secrets that nobody else knows, and also my other name. I love you, and don't stress yourself out too much on SATs and TOEFLs. You're awesome. Dad, you're probably on an airplane right now flying to somewhere. I don't know if it's Brazil or Egypt this time, but you're probably the coolest dad in the universe. And although I suffered from an army commander-comrade relationship in my early years, and I've actually grown to enjoying it now. Keep up with your worldwide marathons, and if you'll ever get into take a selfie with a polar bear when you go into the Arctic, send me it. I love you. Mom, I'm sorry for being the worst daughter sometimes, and but thank you for putting up with me for all these years and still accepting me after going through all those atrocities. We get into fights almost like every day, and I just yelled at you last night. But you are and will be the only mom I'll ever wish for, and you're my best friend that I can safely talk to about any issues. You've always judged yourself too hard, but you're my role model, and I hope you'll know that you're the best mom, and nobody can ever criticize you or judge your language abilities. You're amazing in Chinese literature and language. You're pretty decent with English too. You're the most beautiful woman on the planet. I love you so much, and I'm sorry for giving you all those hard times. Thank you.